Council, Secretary call the roll.
Councilmember Brian Rowland.
Here.
Councilmember Jonathan Randall.
Here.
Councilmember Marie Herndon.
Here.
Councilmember Herbert Thomas. Councilmember Paulette Matthews Burnett. Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. Item number 2 is the canvas of ballots for the May 9th, 2015 general election. Elections closed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The clerk is reading the canvas. Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon. Okay, this is the results of the general election held for the city of Prairie on May 9th. We had early voting in City Hall for position 1, City Council. Brian Rowland, 52 votes. City Hall. Early voting, Brian Rowland, 26 votes at the Memorial Student Center. Brian Rowland, 36 votes the day of the election, making that a total of 114 votes. J.L. Miller, who was the opponent, 38 votes, early voting, City Hall. 34 votes, Memorial Student Center. Election day, 63 votes, making that a total of 135 votes for J.L. Miller. City Council position 2, Jonathan Randall, early voting, City Hall, 62 votes. Memorial Student Center, 44 votes. Election day, 78 votes, giving him a total of 184 votes. James A. Larry, early voting, City Hall, 26. Early voting, Memorial Student Center, 12. Election day, 19, a total of 57. City Council member position 3, and we had 3 opponents. Incumbent Marie Herndon. City Hall early voting, 48. Memorial Center Student Center, 6. Election day, 64, giving her a total of 118 votes. Brandon Wells, City Hall early voting, 9. Student Center, 37. Election day, 8, giving him a total of 54. Lola Lockett, City Hall, early voting, 36. Memorial Center, 17. Election day, 27, giving her a total of 80 votes. We had 1 proposition. For the home rule proposition, early voting, City Hall, 44. Memorial Student Center, 47. Election day, 47. A total of 38. For. Against the proposition.
Was it 38?
138, I'm sorry. 138, okay. Against 48, City Hall, 8 against at the Student Memorial Center, and City Hall, election day, 51, a total of 107. We only have 254 total voters. That means that, should I say the winner?
No.
Okay.
What you
That's
did give
it.
the number. That's it.
Okay.
Mayor and council, just wanted to talk to you, give you a little bit more information. Is that prior to you canvassing the votes or taking actions on the vote, during the election period, one of the candidates raised an issue regarding the eligibility of candidate Miller and his qualification for service as an alderman or a city council member for the city of Prairie. At your desk, you have a memo from my office where we determined that based upon the public information available that Mr. Miller is not qualified to be sworn into that office based upon the local government code qualifications, which require that in order for you to serve as a council member in a type A general law city, that you must be a registered voter and reside in the city in which you're elected. The issue that was determined with Mr. Miller is whether or not he was a registered voter. Mr. Miller registered to vote on April 29th of this year. The state law requires under the election code, in order for your registration to be effective, it has to be on file for 30 days. Mr. Miller's, his registration will not be effective until May 29th. And so you ask, where does that leave? This is where it leaves you as a council. But my recommendation is that you accept the canvas, because that is just the vote tally. But when awarding the office, that the office for the position one, that office, it remains vacant. Mr. Rowland cannot obtain that office, but he did not win that office. The leading vote getter is not qualified to get that office, but you don't obtain that office unless you are the leading vote getter in there. So that office, if you can't fill it with Mr. Rowland. Mr. Rowland does, however, under the Texas Constitution, gets to hold over into that office, and is mandated to hold over into that office until you as a council decide to either appoint somebody to that position, which they would then hold it until the next election, which would be next May, or you call an election. So if you call a special election, which would then, that would be in May. And that's what the law would require, because that office, you would either let him hold over into that position, you either fill it by appointment, or you call a special election. And that's just the mechanisms of the law, because the apparent winner in the race is not qualified because he was not a registered voter. And that documentation, and they're based upon the public record. We have the application that you have in your packet, the application that Mr. Miller submitted. Not only do you have a copy of the application that Mr. Miller submitted, you also have a copy of the designation from the Secretary of State's office that his registration is not effective until the 29th. And with that, I'll take any questions that you may have, but our recommendation is that you accept the canvas, that you accept the other positions, and including the proposition, but you leave that position one, that you not appoint anyone to that position one, and that at a later date, if you want to appoint Mr. Miller, the easy way, if you want Mr. Miller to serve, the easiest and cleanest way for Mr. Miller to serve is you wait till May 30th and you as a council vote to appoint. Because that way you don't have a question about the 29th day. You don't have an issue on that. You have to have the 30 days. He was a apparent winner. If you want him to serve in that, you can wait until the 30th or even the 29th, but it says his registration. So that way, on the day you appoint him, you don't have a question about whether or not he was eligible to serve or not. And so you're talking about now 2 weeks. So you can wait 2 weeks, appoint him to fill the vacancy, and all it does, it just makes him have to run again in January. But he would get to serve the office that he was the apparently voting.
Attorney, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, on your exhibits that you have in here, exhibit D,
Yes.
that's on right before E,
Yes, ma'am.
attachment D, it shows registration date to vote 9/30/2010. Did you see that? On this registration card, in the upper left corner.
Yeah, but that one was not considered a valid registration. His valid registration is that what was determined valid by the Secretary of State's office, and that shows. And if you look at the further exhibit that shows from the Secretary of State, which is the very next exhibit, council member, that comes straight from the Secretary of State's office, and you can pull that up today, and it shows when his effective date is 5/29/2015.
Is there a possibility there was an error at the elections office?
No, ma'am, that would not be from the elections office. That's going to
This
be.
date shows 2010. I mean, something happened there between 2010 and 2015.
No, ma'am, all we can go by is what the Secretary of State determines is his eligibility, his registration date. If you wanted to challenge the Secretary of State's determination, he would have to do that, to challenge the Secretary of State's determination. But we can't go behind what the Secretary of State holds as the registration date. That day determines whether you can vote in any election, and it's gonna be determined not by the local office, but it's gonna be determined by the Secretary of State.
Do we talk to because I know there's a county election count, do we communicate with him and ask him about the issue there?
Yes, sir.
What was his?
Yes, sir. And what the county, what Mr. T has, it has his registration date as 4/29.
But did he feel like this registration would be ineligible to sit in office?
He doesn't make that determination. All he could tell us was, this is the day that he determines. They don't make that type of call. All he does is determine what the date is that his registration is.
So we
And-
had,
Go ahead. Yes, ma'am. No, you go.
so he had to be a registered voter in this election process, or could he have been, was he registered voter prior to?
No.
Like any other?
No. At the time when the election is held, he has to be a registered voter. So for instance, even though he could not vote in this election, if on May 9th, if he had registered to vote, if his registration was effective on that day, let's say he had registered to vote on April 9th, or the 8th or the 10th, depending on 30, 31 days. And if that's the date, then when it becomes effective, he would have been good. Because that's the effective date. The state law requires that when you submit your registration, that it's not effective for 30 days under the
The
election.
state law requires him to be a registered voter to sit in office.
Yes, for a type A general law city, yes. And in your packet, you'll see that the statute says that in order for you to be in the local government code, in order for you to be on the city council in a type A general law city, that you have to be a registered voter and reside in the city on election day. And it's not that way for a home rule city, but it is, and it's not that way for a type B general law city. But for type Cs and types A, it is a requirement.
Attorney,
Yes,
go back to attachment D. This attachment D, where did this information came from in reference to this date?
It came from Mr. T.
yes,
Okay, this came from Waller County?
yes, sir.
Yes.
Mr. Patel,
Yes, sir.
is it, I'm not clear, this is on attachment D. This rejected took place, it says that the registration rejected in 2010?
Yes,
At the
Yes.
top?
yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Attorney,
Yes, ma'am.
when were you first contacted regarding this and about this?
It would have been, Councilmember Rowland would have contacted my office probably a week or so, during the week of the election.
During the week of?
During the
what
week prior to
election?
the-
Early voting or
Or,
election day?
Before election day.
it would have been before election day, but it would have been before election day. It wouldn't have been doing early voting, it would have been before election day.
Okay, and who authorized the memo that went out
Oh, it was my response to Councilmember Rowland.
to Councilmember Rhodes?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
But since it was going to affect all of the council members, I was not going to respond to Councilmember Rowland and you as the other council members not have that information. Just like when you call and you ask me for information that's pertinent to the city, when I respond, I'm gonna respond to everything.
Okay.
And
So
so,
who's being billed for this?
the city of Prairie.
What we had from him?
It's not,
No, it would not be on that, and I can tell you with the amount that we get, if you don't want us to charge you for it, we're not gonna charge you for it, because what we were trying to do, and through our process, like we always do, is try to make sure that you have a smooth election, and that you have issues that are out there, that you're able to settle those issues here, that they're not settled out here. And so we don't have a problem with that. If there's an internal question about whether or not we should pay for this, don't worry about that. That's not an issue. What my job is to do is to make sure that you conduct your election in a fair and responsible manner and in accordance with the law. That's what I'm here for. And if that messes up with the cost, don't worry about the cost.
Okay, so the citizens won't be billed for this.
You bill Art Pertile, senior partner, Olsen Olsen.
Okay, now,
That's
I
fine.
want to get clarity on something.
Yes, ma'am.
He said that, Mr. Miller, Councilman Miller could be seated on May 30th.
I would, if you wanted to see him, I would suggest you do it on May 30th. That's when,
Not the 29th.
not, you can do it on the 29th, but what I try to do, when I practice law, I always try to give a little leeway. So if it was, even though it says the 29th, you don't have a question on the 30th, right? If you have the 29th, now you say, well, were you supposed to count Saturday or Sunday, or do you start on the day that you count, or do you move that? If you do it on the 30th, because at that point, you're not seating him for the election. You're not, that's not an issue. Now, the issue is what are the qualifications to hold the position? The qualification to hold the position, if somebody wants to argue, well, if he couldn't do it on the election, then he's not eligible now. Well, now he's eligible, because he's been there 30 days. So he's registered voter, resides in the city, so what other qualifications do you need?
So we would call a special meeting on the 30th?
So to do that, he would have to rerun, he would have to run for.
At next May, he would run.
So he wouldn't serve his 2 years?
No, he would serve 1 year, and then he would serve the remainder of this term. He would serve until the next election. If you appoint someone, whoever you would appoint, they serve until the next general election.
Okay. So our total list of options, we could approve the canvas and appoint him immediately. We could approve the canvas and appoint him in 2 weeks, or we could appoint somebody else,
Yes.
or we could have an open election,
Call a special election, yes. Yes.
And the special election must take place in May, can it be
No,
sooner?
it has to be a May.
Gotta be May.
So in essence, is Mr. Rowland the one who's contesting the election?
Mr. Rowland, he advised us of what he believed to be an irregularity in the election. And so that's what our duty was, once he advised us of that, it was to provide you the information for you to make a determination on how to do it. He still has the opportunity to file an election card.
So I guess, Mr. Partile and citizens, with the information that the attorneys has given us and we're getting is not about Brian Rowland, the candidate. This is about the city of Prairie View. You have someone who won the election who is not qualified to take the seat. That's the bottom line. This has nothing to do with Brian Rowland. It has to do with the candidate who does not satisfy the qualifications to take the seat. What they're going over is the process on what it takes to fill a vacancy. And so this is not what Brian Rowland did. Brian Rowland registered the vote. And the
people have spoken.
Right, they have. And so with this,
We're gonna give everybody a chance to talk, so let's not disrespect.
and so with this is, again, I still have my process as far as challenging elections and go through what I need to go through. But as far as what they're talking about has nothing to do with Brian Rowland's seat. It has to do with if Brian Rowland was the one who wasn't registered, it would be the same process and we have the same communication. But I find it very interesting that Councilwoman Herndon is talking about cost from the city attorney when we being billed for her stuff. She want to talk about cost.
That's why you lost. That's why you lost. You lost.
We're not billing for anything.
Let's stay on the issue.
And then if.
Let's stay on the issue. Let's stay on the issue. Come on, let's stay on the
Okay,
issue.
I'm Marguerite Robinson, I
Ma'am.
live in Prairie View.
Mayor, if you would, Mayor, could we have the discussion between the council, and then the council decide what the council wants to do, then, or would you finish your discussion, and then take the input from the citizen? But for you as a council, my advice to you as a council is to finish your discussion first, before you invite the other comments from the outside.
Clear the hallway.
But-
Y'all
but-
need to come on in and take the seat.
But if you please finish your discussion first, and when you finish your discussion, then open the floor for comments from the floor. But please finish your discussion first. Because this is not an action that you should take lighthearted. This is an official election. And this is an election to determine whether or not somebody will hold office. This is not something that you take lightly.
Let me say this to the council. The idea is to be fair with everybody. The young man won the election, that's clear. He's telling us how to do it right. That's what we're paying him for. They're telling us how to do it right. And that's all we're doing, just walk us through the process of doing it right, so we can be in accordance with the law. These are our lawyers. Everybody else got an opinion. These are the guys that we're holding accountable. So if we have to go to court, these are the guys that's got to defend this city. So Mr. Patel is telling us how to go about making sure that we can follow the process. And he's told us, if we want to see Mr. Miller, this is how you do it. If you don't want to see Mr. Miller, this is how you do it. He's giving us the options. And that's what this discussion should be. What should be our next steps? How should we handle this? And move forward. We know the outcome of the election. Again, the citizens have voted. So we move the process. It's clear. So he's told us what we need to do. Now, anybody else got an opinion? These folks got the legal side, they're supposed to be experts at this. Everybody else got an opinion and gonna strike up emotion. But we need to go with our attorney that we're paying.
And if you would, counsel, those are your options. So you can, if you get into who said, why they said it, who did it, why they did it, it's still not going to change your option. As Councilmember Randall set forth for you, those are your four options. You could still, because you as a council, you judge the qualifications of the people that are going to sit. You could see Mr. Randall if you wanted to. You could vote today, and you could seat it. But if you seat it, you open yourself up, because the law is clear. At the time, he wasn't qualified, and so if you wanted to seat him, regardless of all the emotion that was there, was 14 days. I mean, you can put all that 14 in, and Mr. Rowland, Councilman Rowland, still has his opportunity to challenge like any official would. But so you could seat him and go through all that, or you could wait for 14 days and seat him, or you could seat somebody else.
The issue with the 14 days is that it cuts his term in half. He's gonna have to go through the process again in a year. And you know, one thing about it is I trust the election process. So if like Ron Rowland said, if they're on the other side and you know the election process goes, then I would handle it accordingly. But you know, he won, the people have spoken, so is it fair to him? And then I talked to Dan T, I talked to Secretary of State, and Dan T told me that his registration issue was a formality on their side,
Right.
not on his side.
Right.
And so
That's all he does. They just send it in, and the Secretary of State will determine whether or not when it's registration effective. The issue you have though is that you could put his whole term at risk, Mr. Miller's whole term at risk, and you may want to ask Mr. Miller what he would decide, because you put his whole term at risk if Mr. Rowland then challenged it and it finds out that he wasn't qualified. So not only do you're not just putting the 1 year term at risk, you put his whole opportunity for the 2 years, because if he gets knocked off the ballot because he wasn't qualified, then you got to call a special election. Whereas if he's there for a year, and even if Mr. Rowland won't be able to challenge him in 14 days. In 14 days, that's a nullity. In 14 days, once you get past the 29th, you can appoint whoever you want to that position. And because you don't have that issue with whether or not he was qualified or not qualified, because it doesn't matter. You're going to know that he was a registered voter. You know that he resides in the city, and you don't have an issue. Now, you could appoint him, and that's up to you as a council. You could appoint him, but that puts his whole term at risk, because if it's challenged and it's determined that he wasn't qualified, then he comes off the ballot, and you have to call a special election. It still doesn't mean Mr. Rowland gets the vote.
either way though, right? So
But
even if
between
he's
1 year or
appointed-
2 years.
If he's appointed, it's the same
14
process.
days.
But if it's challenge that he still comes off if it's deemed.
No, not when he's appointed. If you wait for 14 days to appoint him, Mr. Rowland has no challenge. He has no challenge. Yeah, after he's a registered voter, there is no challenge. Not on the voting, there is no challenge. And so I mean, but that's the option that you have.
For whatever reason that his initial registration was kicked back, you
Yes.
know, I don't think it was intent to defraud. It's not like he put his address down and said he lived there knowing he's not living there, which is an attempt to defraud. So, I think that would be our best choice to get the man who was voted in, Mr. Miller, councilman member to be, right, voting him in on the third. We still have him in place without the possibility.
The motion.
of him not being.
Make a motion.
I make that motion. I make the motion. We will put in, I move that we will,
What your motion, if you let me help you, Councilman, what the appropriate motion would be you move to accept the official canvas.
Be quiet.
You would accept the official canvas and including the canvas for the proposition minus the position one. And with position, no, you accept official canvas. You would accept that motion, that's fine. Then your next motion would then come to the appointment. So if you take the motion to accept the canvas, because the canvas is what it is. You got the votes that you got. Then the next motion would be to declare those people in office that are set forth in the official canvas, except for position one. Then the third motion would be to appoint position, to leave that position one. No, that's all you need, those two motions. You leave position one vacant. You accept the appoint, give everybody else, so the other people around, including you, you get your certificate of office. Everybody gets a certificate of office, except for neither Mr. Miller nor Mr. Rowland gets.
do you
Then
have a calendar, when is the 30th? It's on Saturday? So, do we have call meetings on Saturday?
you can call a meeting on any day of the week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Call meeting.
Yeah, and if you do that, and then what that does, that leaves that position there until you, at your next meeting, or on that meeting, then you can appoint him for that
So
term.
is this position vacant or not?
No, Councilman Rowland holds over.
Okay, well, you mentioned something about
Yeah,
it.
yeah, no, he holds over. Under the Texas Constitution, if you're an elected official, your position, unless you're declared vacant by some operational loss, you hold over in that position. In fact, you can't even resign your position. You can resign your position, but you still have a duty under the Texas Constitution to perform those duties until your successor qualifies.
Okay, then I'll make my motion, I'll restate my motion. I move that we accept the official canvassing of the votes, and I further move that on May 30th, we appoint.
No, what you would do,
Okay.
no, you, let me,
We'll do that one, we'll vote on that one.
Yes,
Okay.
do that.
I move that we accept the official canvassing of votes.
We move the proper second that we accept the official canvas of the election. The motion is second, or you have a further question? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Second.
Okay.
And then the next motion would be is that you would move to award the office to councilmember position 2 and councilmember
What is it?
position.
What is position two?
That's Mr. Randall and you. Because you gotta get a certificate of office.
Right.
And so if you two get a certificate of
Our
office,
office was not in question.
councilmember, every time you get elected, you also get a certificate of office. Let me help you, councilmember, please let me help
You
you.
want to get this right.
Yes, ma'am, please let me help you. Every elected official, you know that second sheet that you get, You get two sheets that you fill out. You get an oath of office and you get a certificate of office. You only get the certificate of office if you as a council give them a certificate of office. So what I'm asking you to do is on a motion to grant you and Councilman Randall your certificate of office. And then once you, and that's just a formality, but you get your certificate of office.
On the 26th?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Right now, when, that's what you do. The normal process, when you canvass an election, you canvass the election and you award certificate of office for those people who won. That's the standard, every day, every city in the area, the way you do it. You just do that. But in this instance, because you have one position that you're not going to do it, you want to make sure that you two don't get caught up in that. That you two are able to get your certificate of office, and then that's it.
The second motion, I move that, council positions 2 and 3 receive their certificate of office today after the canvass.
Second, we move the proper second that positions 2 and 3 receive their certificate of office after the vote. Heard the motion and second, are you ready for the question? Question. All in favor, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, ayes have it.
Now, the last motion would be to set a special meeting date, a meeting for the
And let's make
special
sure
meeting.
everybody's gonna be here, because we're gonna need a super quorum, am I right? We need
Yes.
4.
Excuse me,
Everybody be here on the 30th.
Mr. Mayor?
Okay, we're gonna need 4.
The meeting should not take more than 2 minutes.
We're gonna need 4 one now. Mr. Randall will have to be here too. 1, 2, 3.
We need 4.
Yes.
We need 4, we need 4 people for a super quorum. Okay. All right.
Make sure
What time we want?
We got an event, 9 o'clock.
What event do you have at 9?
What time? That's what I'm saying, we're gonna need a super quorum.
Time.
Just meet at
High
8:30.
We'll do it at noon.
What?
High noon.
All right.
Okay. All right.
Third motion. I move that we have a special call meeting on May 30th at 12 noon to appoint and start Jonathan Miller in council office position 1.
Second.
We move the proper second that we have a special call meeting on May 30th at noon to appoint Councilmember Annette Miller to the office. There's a motion and a second, are you ready for the question? All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. One opposed. All right. All right. All right, that's all the business we have on this agenda. All right, this, Chair, entertain the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Oh, excuse me, you had some questions, no, excuse me.
I almost forgot what the question was. Okay, but, I know that y'all gonna have this other meeting on the 30th to appoint whatever you're gonna do with the position. Will the councilman that wasn't elected to the office get a chance to vote during that time, or will he be forbidden to vote since it's concerning him?
Oh, ma'am, he would not, when he gets, after he's appointed and given that certificate of office, at that point, then he'll be able to vote on both.
No, that's not what I'm asking.
What?
I'm asking if the current councilman get a chance to vote on the
Yes.
position that's
Yes,
vacant.
yes, ma'am. Yes,
He will?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Under the Texas Constitution, he holds over until his successor qualifies.
So he can vote against you.
Yes, he can.
If I'm not mistaken, you said nobody is
Go ahead on.
If I'm not mistaken, you said nobody is appointed, correct? There's nobody under appointment. So if nobody's under appointment, how was he able to vote?
Because, as I stated earlier, sir, under the Texas Constitution, he holds over those duties, he holds over until his successor qualifies. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. He holds over. Even though he didn't win that position, he didn't win until somebody qualifies for that position, he still provides those duties.
Yes, I have a question that's related to procedure. And the question is, in terms of the council at large, the council as a whole, is it proper for one council member or any council member individually to contact the lawyer to get an opinion?
All the time, sir. All the time. I'm each and every one of them individually lawyer and collectively lawyer.
Okay, in that case,
Yes, sir.
if any council member decides that he wants to ask a personal question, he has.
They don't call me for personal questions, sir. They
No,
call me.
I asked, the question I asked, was it proper and legal for any council member at any time to call and to call the law firm and say, I have an issue, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
That's my question.
Isn't there something in the Texas election code that references a winner has 30 days to correct any ineligibilities?
No, they have 30 days to qualify.
No, this is after election
No,
I'm
I know,
speaking
sir,
of.
and they have 30 days to qualify. I know exactly what you said.
Okay.
And it's not in that election code for a type A general law city.
Okay.
It's in chapter 22 of the local government code. And
Yeah.
since he has 30 days to qualify. And from the election, so.
Okay.
But so what you would do, if you wanted to do
Right.
that way, that extends his time further than when he can do it now, because he can't qualify. Because the language is on election day. So there's no way he can qualify. 'Cause
No.
He had to be a registered voter on election day.
No, I'm saying any irregularities, you have 30 days to collect from election day.
No, sir.
So it rolls with what you're saying somewhere around the 30th or
No, sir.
39th,
No,
the
sir.
9th.
No, sir. That's not.
Okay.
That's not. You have 30 days in order to qualify under chapter 22. In other instances there may be an opportunity depending on when you file, whether or not you have time to qualify. Because if you come down to the filing deadline date, and if your name is on the ballot, your name can't be taken off. 5 days after the deadline, even if you're disqualified, your name can't be taken off the ballot. So
Right.
so that's not the case. The 30 days you can automatically change things. So that's why the procedure we recommend is the 4 avenues, as Councilmember Randall described. Those are the 4 avenues that the
Gotcha.
council could take. And
Okay.
the council chose to take the avenue where they would appoint him, because that's the safest avenue. Councilmember Rowland could still contest actual
Sure.
recount of the election process, and he can still challenge that election. He still has the opportunity
Right.
to challenge the election. After the 30th, on the 30th, and if that challenge hadn't been ruled on, when they do that appointment, they're appointing somebody. That's not the election.
Right.
And he doesn't have a right, and people don't have the standing to challenge that, because his qualification, he will meet the qualification, unless they try to challenge on residency, which, anybody can do that. But
Sure.
he meets all of the requirements.
Gotcha.
And once he does that, then you are where you are.
Thanks.
All right. Chair, entertain a motion to adjourn. Second. We move past second, this meeting to adjourn. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. Those that are going to be here for the next workshop, come on in.